Welcome back to the Palladino universe. Obviously, you guys both appeared on Maisel, and now you're back for Étoile, and I can't wait to hear all about it. Obviously, the Palladinos are so well known for their dialogue. They're super quick, they're punchy, and I want to get your insights when you first get a script. You know, you read it through the first time. What's your immediate next step after you've read through?
I actually do think it's good to take a nap after reading, just to sort of you know let the let the underneath kind of do a little bit of work. Um,
Totally.
but yeah, then with this, it was very quickly just calling everyone and saying, "All hands on deck, please. Let's try and make this work out somehow."
I say, yeah. I mean, I think it's really important to let it gestate. But honestly, a lot of the work that I do with text actually just comes from memorization because I don't really like to prepare anything. I obviously want to be off book, but I don't really want to have an idea of. I have a tiny idea of where it's going to go, but I'd like to keep it super duper loose so that whatever's happening in that moment can come out and sort of just let the text affect me. But the only way to do that is to know the lines super well. So I start memorizing very fast.
What's your memorization hack, Gideon? Do you have one?
Repetition. I do it in the morning. I repeat
Staying
it.
young,
Well, time goes on. I'm not gonna be able to
just
do
you
that
wait.
unless you wait. No
One
repetition,
day
and
you'll
also
be in this room.
in the dark. I'm fresher in the morning, so I think that's really helpful. And then obviously you just kind of gotta have some trust that it'll be there the next day.
I
Totally.
find it really helpful to work with somebody else, just to have
Mm.
another person in the space is really helpful. You know, I cannot for the life of me learn stuff alone because being in the space with another person just changes the whole dynamic. You know, and when I've tried it and I've arrived on set, I fall apart. It's too much to take in. I guess I'm easily overwhelmed.
I mean, obviously the cast on this show is really impressive, and you know, to speak to that point, Luke, you talking about being in the room
Yeah.
with another person, you know, the actors on this show are formidable, and the stakes are really high for all of the characters. I'm curious, like, what you feel like makes a good scene partner.
I think we all kind of know what makes a good scene partner because we all grew up at some point playing make believe, and it's the ones who stay dedicated, who stay limber, who are open to surprises and you know good people that are just who are awake to this sort of to this thing that we're trying to conjure. And when people, I mean, Charlotte is a great example of someone who is just so sort of, she's so relaxed and so kind of well read in who her character is and what her need and want is. And, it's just sort of very, very, with great ease, is just very present. A good playmate, I think, and people that are kind of always trying to kind of just stay awake to it, and not, you just don't ever want anybody to give up. And obviously people get tired, but but the best ones, don't make too much of a deal out of that. I'm probably the one who like complains the most about being tired, but nobody said I was a good scene partner.
Luke is a good scene partner. Honestly, I just want somebody to be alive. I want somebody to really be riffing off of me, and I want to be able to riff off them. And then I want it to go so many different ways. And so that's really just about listening, and it's about showing up, and it's also about concentration. But sometimes, Luke, when we're tired, I
Mhm.
think we do really good work because we're not getting in our own way.
Good point.
So
Fair point. Tired or
is that for
sick?
you? Once I I was sick and I was doing a play, and the play's at night. But for some reason, my brain works in very mysterious ways. So I was like, "Oh, it's night. I should take nighttime medicine right before I go on stage, and which made no sense. So then, about at a half hour, I was like, "Why do I feel like I need to go to sleep now?" So then I chugged a large cup of coffee, and it was the most glorious acting I've ever done. I can never recreate that.
Why don't you just try it again? Just do it every time you perform.
I think
NyQuil
that's
coffee.
yeah, that's how people develop some
Is that
problem.
your
Right, right.
is that your on stage tip for people, Gideon, is like mix NyQuil and coffee and see what
Yeah,
happens?
shut it
Right.
down and then bring it up.
Should bring it back up. I mean, there must be something to that though of, the brain sort of relaxing a bit and giving space for the performance to come through in a way that doesn't feel so cerebral. And maybe it just is a little bit more relaxed. But I want to talk a little bit about the physicality. Obviously, you guys are both playing people who come from a dance background, and Gideon, you've joked that you are a bad dancer in interviews prior. So I'm curious about how you both prepared to, bring these characters into your bodies in a way that felt authentic. Even if you're not the ones sort of doing the pirouettes, you still need to move like someone who has had dance as a part of your life for a long time. So I'm
Yeah.
curious about what that physical process looks like for both of you.
Yeah, well, we both did take ballet lessons, and I did do a lot of ballet. I just wanted to understand what it meant. I wanted to understand the vocabulary, the physical vocabulary, and then also the literal vocabulary. I shadowed a lot of choreographers, which helped. I think the way a choreographer takes up space is kind of different than the way a dancer takes up space. But it's even interesting. I watched Marguerite Derrick, our brilliant choreographer, the way she would sort of like track all the dancers and weave through them, sort of like an animal stalking its prey. I stole that, but then the thing is, Tobias is so introverted, so I sort of took that and then made it inside, and that I found really really helpful.
Well, Jack isn't really a dancer, but he, obviously has lived in that world, in proximity to it for such a long time and has such affection for it. I kind of thought, the thing that I was more curious about was, his lineage, his breeding, what it would be to come from a family that was sort of, you know, an old money family, somebody who, I thought of him as somebody who maybe like could hop on a horse, with a degree of ease. I don't think that's what I executed, but pick up a tennis racket, give a nice swing. I worked with a movement coach, Julia Crockett. We did some really interesting work together to kind of try and find things. I work with an Alexander teacher named Jean-Louis Rodrigue, and we do sort of, image work. We pick, an animal. We get, just sort of get into the imagination of it all and try to awaken the body to whatever the carriage is going to become, how you hold your neck, what do you do with your everything. And it's just more than anything just helps to sort of spark the imagination and keep the interest and the concentration going.
Mm.
But yeah, and I took ballet classes, and it turns out I'm really good at it, and I chose the wrong profession.
Well, lucky for us, you have chosen this one, and we get to see you. We get to see you in
Oh,
this one.
thanks.
So. And Jean-Louis is such an interesting character. I actually met him when I was a juror on the Denver Film Festival, and so was he.
Oh,
And he's a
fantastic.
fascinating
Yeah,
person
fascinating guy.
just to like be around.
Yeah, really fascinating to be around. He really, when you work with him, when you do the work with him, he's sort of a bit shamanesque. He gives great insight, gives
Yeah.
great, just sort of just awakens stuff. That's all there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really, I find all that work just really helpful. You're just trying to, you know, just ingest as much as you can, you know,
Totally.
to spit out some little pea of something.
Do you, just as a final question, have any parting advice for working actors who are looking to break into the industry today?
think about what your life, what life you want to have, and really take that take that life the most seriously, and and then do the work. Um, and yeah, try not to let your obsession um, take you over. You have to have a you have to this it has to be a dance. It should be it should be an obsession, but you have to dance with it. You can't let it just crush you. And having a life really helps. And being with people, I think, is really good. I think that I was just thinking about this audition thing, and I hear so many young kids talk about never auditioning in a room with people, and this thing of going on tape a lot. And I sort of feel like it's such a something that draws us to this sort of life is this kind of carnal need to be with other people, and to be in a room with people, sort of messing with each other's energy. And so if that's not happening in the audition, I think that it's good to have, find other ways to make that happen. To get thrown off your game. I think that if you're in a room just sort of putting yourself on tape, you can get very good at being on camera, but you maybe lose sight lose sight of, being in the ring with a sparring partner.